Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Sinew and Steel, the ultimate bodybuilding resource. Today I have with me Eric Schwartz, who has been in the supplement and nutrition industry for how many years now, Eric?
12 years.
Yeah. 12 years. And how long have you been involved in bodybuilding and fitness?
I don't want to give away my age. It's been a while. Long time.
A long time? A few decades?
Yeah.
Okay. And we also have Scotty Applebaum, who is a competitor for many years now. He's also a personal trainer down in Florida. Scotty, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
How long have you been involved in the sport?
Oh, wow. I first competed in 1987.
1987. Wow.
Yeah.
And you're a personal trainer now too?
No, I would call myself a coach, guy, because I really deal with everything with an individual, not just their training. Just that's only a small part of it.
So you're how old now?
57, going to be 58 in June.
Wow. So what do you attribute your physique to? Because you don't look like a normal, what the average person would consider to be a normal 57-year-old guy.
Yeah, I've been told.
Are you a genetic freak or?
I would say that I have somewhat decent genetics, but really it's my lifestyle. You know, it is truly the lifestyle that I've led since I got involved in bodybuilding back in the mid 80s.
What's sort of different about your lifestyle as compared to the average person, for example?
People ask me, how do I look like you? And how do you, I never stopped. That's number one.
Right.
Never stopped training, ever.
Yeah, just if I don't want to interrupt Scott or you, but just if I could jump in, knowing Scott, he's a machine. I mean, he's always, eating properly. The training, obviously, never misses training, but like a machine. And I respect the hell out of it. He's super dedicated. I eat healthy, but there's also a lot of times where I just eat for pleasure and stuff. And I've never seen Scott eat for pleasure. I'm sure he has at some point in his life, but I respect the hell out of his dedication. So I call him a machine. Go ahead, sorry.
Thank you, Eric. It's easy. You know why? Because I love doing it. I love to get up in the morning at 4 a.m. and train at 5. Okay, and I love to train with guys who are a lot younger than me because it's a great challenge. I love preparing all my meals. Even though I haven't competed in a while, I still live the entire lifestyle. I prep my supplements for the week every Saturday. I take my meals with me. I make sure that, like, for example, I had a meal just before we got on, knowing that when we're done, I'll have my next meal. It's just something that's been ingrained in me, but the food has to be on. And you know what? I see my body as a vessel that I wanted to be here for a very long time. And I wanted to basically be able to be as healthy as long as I can. And, I want to basically go out like a bright light. I do not want to slowly dim. And I do everything in my power every single day to shine bright.
Well, that's really great. And it shows in your physique, obviously. Do you take protein powders and this type of thing?
Yeah, I'll have one protein shake a day, whey protein shake a day, which is post-workout for convenience, and the rest of my meals are all food.
They're all food. Okay. Do you feel like the body wants food as opposed to these supplements? Better?
Yeah. I think, there's nothing that's going to replace food, but for time efficiency, for the window after you train, getting that protein in, a shake is just convenient,
Sure. And of course, too, when you're eating that much food, it's downright difficult to get the food down sometimes. And the protein shake is a great adjunct to that regimen.
And the expense, especially if you're buying high quality food, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's funny. I live a sort of a Spartan life, and my wife says to me, she goes, all your money is spent on food and supplements. That is the majority of your purchases, period.
See.
There's no other extraneous purchases. She goes, it's always food and supplements. Because I make sure that I give my body the best of the best. Only grass-fed, beef. Only wild-caught seafood. Only pasture-raised eggs. Only organic vegetables. I mean, I really respect this vessel.
Okay. Now, Eric, you've been involved in the fitness industry and the supplement industry for many years. How do we know what we're buying is of a good quality? How does a person go into a store and shop for these things and say, you know, this supplement is fantastic? How do I know that?
It's a great, great question, and one that there's a lot of so there's a million companies in the supplement industry, and as you've seen over the past really 5 to 10 years, it has exploded with the amount of companies. And back in our day when we were, hanging out, whatever, it was maybe 5 or 10 companies. Now there's probably 100. The barrier of entry to start a company, you could start one tomorrow with very little money and start a company and get somebody to produce products for you. And there are companies that have cheated consumers or have spiked the product and put stuff in. You really got to do a little research on the company itself. Find out where they manufacture their products. Most supplement companies don't manufacture their own products. Most are just marketing companies. They'll have a third-party manufacturer make it for them, put their label on it. So you can contact those companies and ask them where the product's made. You can do some simple Google research. Once you know the name of where the product's made, you can say, you can just say, have there been any FDA violations in this place? And they're public record if there were any FDA violations. You can do some background checks, but generally when you get from the larger companies, they have more to risk. So they're generally not going to cheat consumers or stuff because they have a lot to risk and lose. So do a little research, find out. Amazon now is taking some steps where they're going to force these supplement companies to show proof before they'll sell some of their products. Not every company does a third-party test. You want to find out, does your supplement brand do a third-party test, or are they just doing their own? So a little bit of research would help. They are regularly inspected by the FDA to meet good manufacturing practices, whereas a lot of these smaller companies just fly under the radar because the FDA doesn't have enough people to enforce it. It's upon the consumer has to do their own research too, a little bit, do a little bit of homework.
Now, I've actually heard stories where certain supplement companies were actually putting anabolic steroids into their product in small amounts, so that way you would see a tremendous boost from the product when you took it. I mean, I think eventually they got caught, but that was going on for a little while.
Yes, happened with anabolics, happened with pro hormones. It's happened with stimulant products. So you take a pre-workout or a fat burner and they'll put an illegal stimulant in there so you feel it more. It's happened with sexual, over-the-counter sexual health products where they'll put in some real Viagra. And sometimes they do it just for the first 3 or 4 runs. So and the buzz gets out there and everybody says, "Oh, it's a great product. I gotta try it."
And then they eliminate it. And they got a customer
to save the cost. Yeah.
I know, again, not personally, but I know guys out there who take an ED product as a pre-workout. They will take a Cialis prior to training.
Yes, I've heard that too.
Yeah, and that's because of its nitrogen retaining effects. Is that right?
It's for the pump. They're doing it. Yeah.
Nitric oxide effect is what you're referring to. Nitrogen retaining.
Yeah.
What I mean, the pre-workouts is something to me that's I have a little pet peeve with. I just think that the amounts of stimulants that are in pre-workouts now are off the chain. And you have someone who's a large bodybuilder who may be on anabolic steroids, whose blood pressure is probably already elevated. And when you train, you're elevating your blood pressure. And now you're adding a stimulant to even raise it further. I just think it could be a recipe for disaster.
Unfortunately, what happens, especially with the younger guys, is they never listen to the instructions. It says 1 scoop, I'll take 2. And there's a pre-workout out there. There's a few that have a high amounts of caffeine, and people are taking more than 1 scoop.
But I'll tell you, when it comes to pre-workouts and pump products, there are some good products out there that don't have any stimulants that really give the desired effect. And as you know, caffeine and the stimulants, they're what the American Indian call empty fire. It gives you that boost, but then it robs you later because you crash.
So a weird thing that's going on now with, and again, I don't mean to knock on the young guys, but I see it's going around on TikTok, is this, they call it the dry scoop challenge. And everybody takes their pre-workout either in their car before the gym or right at the gym. They, they dry scoop it and they go train right away. When you dump that amount of nutrients in your stomach, especially some of these fully dosed pre-workouts. There are pre-workouts like 28-gram scoop with citrulline, 6 grams of citrulline and all this stuff. That's a lot of nutrients in your gastric system at one time, where you'd be better off sipping on it slowly before you get to the gym, maybe 45 minutes before you get to the gym. And they're also missing a big benefit. So a lot of people take these pre-workouts for the caffeine, and caffeine does have some really good ergogenic effects, but it peaks at about 1 hour, right? So if you're dry scooping it right before the gym, that thing's gonna peak when you're done with your workout. That's not when you want it. You want it to peak when you're in the middle of your, your heaviest sets.
And to speak to that, when they drink it or dry scoop it right away, and they're training intensely, they tend to start to get nauseous. I've seen that plenty of times.
Yeah, it's a lot of ingredients in one time in your stomach, and with little liquid, it's not a good idea.
Where do you guys fall in the category of these peptides and SARMs that are out now? Have any experience with those, Scott?
Not directly, no. I know enough about them, but honestly, they used to say that marijuana was a gateway drug to hardcore drugs, and I use the correlation that SARMs and peptides are the gateway to getting involved in anabolics. Eric, can you agree on that?
Yeah, I think it makes sense psychologically to somebody. Hey, I'm taking this because it's it's not totally legal, but it's yet not black market, and then it's very logical that they could take that.
Graduate right to it,
Oh, so you're saying SARMs are not allowed to be made in an FDA licensed facility?
Correct.
They're not,
because those ingredients are not. They're banned by the FDA. So any legitimate company, let's say Animal wanted to make a SARM tomorrow, they would be in a lot of trouble if they made it in their facility if the FDA found out.
Oh, that's
so yeah,
I did not know
what
that.
I'm saying is the FDA will never inspect any of those places where these SARMs are being made. So there's no oversight.
I did dabble with MK677,
yeah,
which was an oral, and it's supposed to stimulate, your natural production of growth hormone. And I found after taking it for a month or so, I found that it put my ability to absorb sugar went way down, and all I did was get fat. All I took it.
Interesting.
Well, okay, let's go down that road. If your body is getting an exogenous form or producing an exorbitant amount of growth hormone, that can have an effect on your ability to absorb sugar.
Yeah, it decreases your insulin sensitivity, supposedly.
Absolutely. Right. So, ergo, that's exactly what happened.
You're right. I mean, so I guess to mitigate that, you'd have to take another drug like metformin or something to balance
or berberine,
right? So you wind up taking 2 or 3 to one for the effect and one to
counteract
the side effect. So it's never ending.
And then you almost like you're getting into bed with what Big Pharma does. They give someone a statin drug, because they say their cholesterol is too high, and they've actually lowered, which should be normal cholesterol in our country, because they want to push statin drugs, and these statin drugs have side effects such as erectile dysfunction, and then they give that patient erectile dysfunction drug. So now you have a customer for life on 2 drugs.
Right. And I think for some people, the erectile dysfunction is more important than the statin.
Yeah, because it gives them they have an immediate problem, not a problem that could occur down the line.
Right.
But and talking about this heart health, as we just went down the cholesterol road, is the real measure of someone's ability and not to have, or not ability, but predetermination to have a heart attack or a stroke or some kind of heart issue, is getting a calcium score. Your cholesterol, although a marker, the calcium score will tell you if you have plaque buildup. Yeah. Well, yeah. And unfortunately, people that take, large amounts of anabolics and androgenics, what will happen is their LDLs will decrease incredibly. Their HDLs will decrease and their LDLs will increase. I've seen it. When I coach people, the first thing that I want to see is their blood work. I got to see blood work before I'm willing to work with anybody. And they look at me and go, why do you want to see my blood work? I go, I want to know what's going on inside, you know?
Right. And none of us here are medical doctors.
No.
We're not
But
saying that we're medically trained. We have the I guess you could call it the bro science experience from basically being in the industry for 30 plus years each. But let me talk about this for a moment, because I think it's a topic that I've been hearing about lately. It's bro science versus the medical community, and that really, I want to give some perspective to people, some history on that. And what happened back in the 90s is that I think there could have been a great working relationship between bodybuilders and the medical community had the politicians not basically driven a wedge between those two groups. And the way that they did that was the politicians put steroids as a class 3 felony. So now we had the patients, the athletes, afraid to tell the doctors they were on steroids. And we had on the other side of the coin, the doctors are afraid to give any advice on the steroids because they don't want to get in trouble either. So there was a divide, a wedge driven between those two groups. And that's where things went wrong, in my opinion, in the sport. We could have had so much research done had those two groups worked together without fear of persecution. Well, I guess my point is, do you agree with my assessment of the history of this sport in that respect?
100%.
I mean, that's exactly what happened, is it not?
Yeah,
I would agree.
I mean, look, bigger, stronger, faster. Do you see the movie?
Yes.
It kind of speaks to some of that went on, but these politicians had no idea what they were even talking about, you know?
No.
In that documentary, I mean, they made buffoons out of themselves.
It was definitely utilized as a political football of some sort, but it was done so to the detriment of the athlete and the health of all the people out there who take anabolic steroids for performance enhancement and so forth. Right. So we went from a situation where, back in the early days of bodybuilding with Arnold Schwarzenegger and so forth in the 70s and 60s, where, steroids were, I guess you could just call them legal, because it was a situation where
they got scripts from doctors. They did.
Well, they got prescriptions from doctors.
Yeah, it was legal at that point.
It was legal, right? That's my point. And then, that pretty much was status quo until somewhere in the early 90s when when the politicians went on the attack. I believe it was more for political reasons than for actual. The science, the data wasn't there in terms of being dangerous, at least as dangerous as they tried to make it out to be. And that is what drove that wedge between the two houses, the medical field and the athletes. And I think that was a terrible, terrible thing that occurred. And, unfortunately, where does that leave the athlete? It leaves him to do his own research. It leaves him to do.
And go to the black market, right?
All right. Well, okay. That's another thing. Here we go. Do you think there's an athlete out there that doesn't want pharmaceutical grade anabolic steroids? No. Do you think they want to go underground? No. But the thing is, the politicians took away the choices, right? So, I can't say that I completely blame the medical community, and I don't blame bro science either. They're both at fault in this situation. And it was to the detriment of both. The medical community made another huge error in that they have a standardized book called the Physician's Desk Reference, the PDR, and that outlines every single drug that's out there and what it does, okay? And if you go back to the pages of anabolic steroids in that book, it specifically says, does not enhance athletic performance, okay? So right there and then we have a credibility issue. Okay, so there's been many, I think, mistakes made on both sides, and that was not good for either side.
Yeah,
because certainly there would have been a lot to learn had this been studied properly for the last 30 or 40 years. I mean, so Scott and Eric, I want to say thank you for coming on the podcast, and I hope we can do this again. I hope people find this to be informative, and I encourage them to leave questions in the comments section, and we can certainly return and do some more time on this subject and hopefully educate people and help them out. I had a good time. I hope you guys will come back on.
Oh yeah,
It'll be my pleasure.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, you too.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.